Have you ever woken up with a feeling you cannot explain? A quiet sense of dissatisfaction with life. At first, it is subtle, easy to ignore. But slowly, that dissatisfaction seems to take on a life of its own. It begins to claw its way out into the mirror of reality around you, showing up in your relationships, in your work, in the way your days no longer feel like they fit. And then, almost without warning, everything you used to depend on starts to feel unstable. People you thought would always be there begin to drift. Plans you were certain about suddenly fall apart. And the person you have been for years no longer fits inside the life you are living. But here is the part most people do not talk about. As your outer world begins to shake, your inner world becomes louder. Your emotions feel sharper. You react more intensely than usual. Your patience thins. Your old coping mechanisms stop working. Have you noticed that lately? That you are more sensitive, more easily overwhelmed? Almost as if your system is trying to tell you something. And maybe the most confusing part of all, from the outside, nothing dramatic has changed. But inside, you feel like something is quietly breaking open. Have you felt that shift? Where your life still looks the same, but somehow you know you cannot go back to who you were. If so, you are not falling apart. You are awakening. For many people, this is the stage of a spiritual awakening that no one warns you about. The silent dismantling, the dark night before the breakthrough. The moment where the life you have outgrown begins to dissolve. Because today, we are going to explore a truth so rare, so misunderstood, and so spiritually advanced, that most people never recognize it until they are standing in the ruins of their old world. And by the end of this video, you might realize something shocking. Your life is not collapsing, your old frequency is. And what happens next depends entirely on whether you understand the signs before the shift completes itself. In fact, I'm going to share with you 5 hidden spiritual mechanisms, patterns almost no one recognizes in the moment, that activate right before your next chapter begins. Stay until the end, because the final mechanism is the one that determines whether you experience a breakthrough or repeat the same timeline again. Let us begin. There comes a point in every spiritual awakening where your life seems to collapse faster than you can process it. Everything feels unstable, unpredictable, and strangely out of sync. It is the moment you look around and think, why is everything breaking at once? But here is the paradox that almost no one understands. Your life does not fall apart because you are failing. It falls apart because you are evolving faster than your reality can keep up. In other words, your soul evolves quietly, but your external life collapses loudly. Why? Because your soul upgrades first, your circumstances update second, and the space in between feels like everything is falling apart. This is the reason people feel lost in transition. Your soul already moved. Your life has not caught up yet. And this is your first answer into the mystery. Life does not fall apart because you are behind. Life falls apart because you are ahead. This is what people call the dark night of the soul. But most never realize it is actually the beginning of your highest timeline shift. And until you understand the spiritual mechanics behind this, you will mistake progress for punishment. So where do most people miss the earliest signs of a coming shift? Let us talk about the first spiritual mechanism, where reality begins to dim before it breaks. Nothing dramatic happens at first, nothing loud. The things that once brought comfort now feel strangely hollow. The conversations you used to flow through now feel distant, as if you are speaking from behind invisible glass. This dimming is not depression. It is the unmistakable signal that your inner world has already begun to move ahead of your outer world. You interact with your life, but you no longer feel fully inside it. Your energy is shifting, but your circumstances have not caught up yet. That tension creates a sense of emotional distance you cannot explain. Activities that once energized you begin to feel like echoes, like you open your favorite book and feel nothing. Places that used to feel familiar now feel like sets from a version of you that no longer exists. Your intuition notices the shift long before your mind does. It nudges you gently with feelings of restlessness. You may suddenly wake up one day and feel a quiet dissatisfaction. You sense that something is ending, even though nothing visible has changed. This is energetic incompatibility. You have outgrown a frequency your body still inhabits. Think of it like this. If your soul is broadcasting on a higher channel, but your life is still tuned to the old one, everything feels off, glitchy, and draining. This phase marks the beginning of the deconstruction. Your old identity is loosening its grip. Your spirit is preparing for a timeline that your mind has not yet imagined. The dimming is not the collapse itself. It is the preparation. It is the subtle unraveling that clears the way for the transformation to come. This is the universe's gentle version of collapse. When this phase begins, life has not fallen apart yet, but your attachment to the old life has. Have you felt this shift lately? Where your life still looks the same, but somehow you no longer feel like the same person living it. That is the first true sign that a new chapter is forming beneath the surface. If you ignore it, the signs escalate. When the dimming phase begins, most people assume the worst is over. They think the quiet unraveling is the collapse itself. But what comes next is the part no one feels prepared for. Because once your soul outgrows your old reality, the universe does not wait for your permission to move you forward. What you will not walk away from willingly, your soul removes. This is the part that feels like life is being cruel. A relationship ends unexpectedly. Maybe you knew deep down it was not aligned, but you kept telling yourself, "It is not that bad. I can make it work." A job becomes unbearable. A friend becomes distant. A plan collapses overnight. It feels like you are being torn away from everything you depended on. But spiritually, it is extraction. You are being extracted from what lowers your frequency, blocks your growth, or prevents you from stepping into the chapter you asked for. Most people pray for expansion, without realizing that expansion requires removal. And here is a perspective that very few teachers talk about. Your manifestations often arrive disguised as endings. To the ego, it looks like destruction. To the soul, it is precision surgery. This mechanism is uncomfortable because it disrupts your sense of control. It forces you to see what you were clinging to out of habit rather than growth. And it reveals the deepest spiritual truth behind forced endings. Nothing aligned ever leaves. Only what limits you does. You are not losing what is meant for you. You are losing what was designed to hold only your past self. So think of it this way. If something in your life is slipping away right now, what if it is not rejection, but redirection? This is why the universe removes things cleanly, brutally, and suddenly, not as punishment, but as liberation. There comes a moment after the clearing when everything goes quiet, almost too quiet. The noise of your old life has faded, but the new life has not arrived yet. And for the first time, you are standing in a space with no familiar markers. This is what many mystics call the void. It is the most misunderstood part of spiritual transformation. Not because it is painful, but because it is empty. You wake up and nothing feels solid. You try to reach for the person you used to be, and she is not there. You look for the future you imagined, and it has not formed yet. You are suspended between identities, between timelines, between versions of yourself. It is the strange moment where you cannot go back to who you were, but you do not yet recognize who you are becoming. It feels like confusion and disconnection and drifting, but none of those truly describe what is happening. What is actually happening is a sacred pause, the spiritual interval where your soul recalibrates after shedding who you used to be. You may feel numb in this phase, not because you do not care, but because your entire emotional system is resetting. Your desires do not make sense anymore. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop fitting inside your old life, nothing in the outer world feels solid anymore? Even simple decisions, what to eat, who to call, what to do next, they all feel heavier than they should. Your goals feel outdated. Even your dreams feel like they belong to someone you used to know. This is the natural consequence of no longer being who you were. The void is where your intuition becomes loudest, not through words, but through the absence of noise, through the silence that forces you inward, where your real answers have been waiting. This is the phase where the ego panics and becomes ultra-reactive. It wants direction, clarity, certainty, a plan. But the void refuses to offer any of that, because this part of your journey cannot be navigated with old tools. The void requires stillness. It requires surrender. It requires trust that feels unreasonable. And yet, this is the stage where the deepest growth happens. Your nervous system begins to release old identities. Your energy reorganizes itself around your new frequency. Your soul integrates everything it has learned through the collapse. You are not lost in the void. You are being rebuilt. This phase is the energetic reboot of your entire consciousness. This is why nothing external moves during this phase. Your soul does not want you to act yet. It wants you to become. Most people try to escape the void. They rush into new relationships, new jobs, new distractions. They try to fill the silence with noise, stimulation, social media. But to leave the void, you must first realize that the void is not meant to be filled. It is meant to be experienced. Because the person who emerges from the void is not the person who entered it. Your clarity will return, but it will not come as a thought. It will come as alignment. It will come as a pull. It will come as a knowing so quiet and undeniable that you will realize the void was never the absence of guidance. It was the purification of everything that blocked it. The void is not the end. It is the womb of your next beginning. It is the place where your future self gathers strength before stepping into your life. And this is the hidden truth of the void, the part that only reveals itself in hindsight. The more confused you feel, the more clarity is being built underneath. You just cannot see it yet. And when the void releases you, you will not go back to your old world. You will step into a reality that finally matches who you have become. Trust the void, for it is the birthplace of everything new. Only when you stop resisting its rawness and surrender to its messiness does the void open and let you through. When the void has done its work, something deeper begins to unravel. Not your circumstances this time, but you. This is what I call the ego collapse. It is the moment you realize that the version of you who carried you through your past cannot take another step into your future. It does not happen all at once. It happens through subtle emotional cracks. You feel strangely sensitive and unusually reactive. You feel exposed in ways you cannot explain. The smallest things unsettle you because the protective layer you built over the years is dissolving. The identity you wore for so long, the one that helped you survive, belong, achieve, endure, it begins to loosen its grip. You may find yourself grieving even if nothing specific has been lost. You are not mourning a person or an event. You are mourning an old self, a self who tried, who coped, who endured, a self you no longer need. This grief can feel confusing because you are used to associating it with something external. But this grief has nothing to do with the outside world. It is the internal recognition that you have reached the end of a role you have been playing for years. You start seeing your patterns with painful clarity. You see the ways you made yourself small. You see the ways you overextended. You see the version of you who lived for approval or peace or survival. And you realize that continuing to live this way feels impossible now. This is not weakness. This is awakening. The ego collapse strips away everything you used to rely on. Your defenses, your labels, your narratives, your armor. You no longer have access to the strategies that once kept you safe. People-pleasing stops working. Avoidance stops working. Overthinking stops working. Even the stories you tell yourself stop working. It feels destabilizing because your inner operating system is being rewritten. You are losing your familiar sense of self before the new one has fully formed. And that in-between space feels like standing without ground. But this is the profound spiritual truth buried inside the discomfort. you are not being broken down. You are being broken open. This is the ego death that precedes every true rebirth. Everything you thought you were, the achiever, the caretaker, the strong one, the agreeable one, the silent one, all of that was built from adaptation, not essence. Now those adaptations are falling away, so your true identity can emerge. During an ego collapse, you may feel emotional without reason. You may feel like you are regressing, but you are actually shedding layers you were never meant to carry. This is why it feels so disorienting. You are not losing control, you are losing the illusion of control. And beneath that illusion is the real you. Waiting to breathe, waiting to speak, waiting to lead. When the ego collapses, it leaves behind everything that constrained your expansion. It forces you to step into the world without the mask you have hidden behind. It demands your authenticity, even when authenticity feels unfamiliar. This phase is the true threshold of transformation, because once your old identity dissolves, you can no longer return to the life that identity maintained. The ego collapse is not the end of who you are. It is the end of who you are not. And the moment you recognize that, you begin to sense something extraordinary. Your soul has finally taken the lead. After the ego collapses, something profound begins to take shape beneath the surface of your life. You do not recognize it at first because it does not feel like expansion. It feels like being stripped of everything familiar. But this is where the deeper truth of your spiritual journey reveals itself. And this is the moment most people do not realize they have already crossed a spiritual threshold. This is the moment of spiritual initiation. You are not being punished. You are being initiated. Every spiritual tradition speaks of initiations, moments where the old world disappears so the soul can step into its next level of evolution. And these initiations never begin with clarity. They begin with disruption. They begin when life stops responding to the person you used to be. You start to notice that life is asking something new of you. It asks you to hold boundaries you never enforced before. It asks you to speak truths you used to swallow. Maybe for the first time, you say no. Maybe for the first time, you stop apologizing for needing space. It asks you to stop betraying yourself just to belong. It asks you to trust what feels right, even when it does not feel safe. And each of these moments feels strangely fated, as if you are being guided into a version of yourself you have avoided for years. Every ending becomes an initiation into a new version of you. The collapse of identity becomes the initiation of authenticity. The discomfort of uncertainty becomes the initiation of surrender. And the release of old relationships becomes the initiation of self-worth. None of this is random. All of it is shaping the person you are becoming. These are the curriculum your soul chose long before this moment. And even though the ego feels overwhelmed, your soul recognizes every step. You might not see the purpose yet, but something deeper inside you senses that you are being moved with precision. The universe will not let you shrink back into who you were, not after everything you have shed. And as you reach this turning point, something subtle but unmistakable begins to shift. You start noticing synchronicities again, little signs that feel too precise to ignore, like thinking of someone seconds before they message you, or seeing the same phrase everywhere you turn, as if life is whispering, "This way." Moments that feel like the universe is rearranging itself around your new frequency. It is almost as if life is acknowledging your transformation before you fully believe in it. Old desires fade, and new ones rise like whispers from a future you are only beginning to sense. Your life begins to feel less random and more like a conversation. One where the universe keeps answering questions you have not spoken aloud. It feels like life is waking up around you. It feels like you are finally moving with the current instead of against it. It feels like alignment, even if you still do not understand where it is leading. This is the moment where your future starts meeting you halfway, where you finally understand that your life purpose is not something you hunt for in the chaos. You only have to return to yourself, and your purpose will reveal itself to you. This is the soul resurgence. The moment your true self steps forward after a lifetime of layers falling away. Your intuition becomes clearer. Your choices feel guided rather than forced. You begin to sense a new coherence forming in your life, a quiet organization that you did not consciously create. You realize that the clarity you begged for during the collapse was being built in the silence. You realize that the prayers you thought were unanswered were being answered through the clearing. You realize that the version of you who felt lost was actually being reshaped into someone capable of receiving more. And for the first time, the pieces start to make sense. And then comes the final revelation. The truth that only becomes obvious once you have lived through all of it. You never actually lost anything. What left was everything you were holding on to out of fear, loyalty, habit, or the belief that you did not deserve more. Nothing aligned ever walks away. You only lost what your soul had already outgrown. What you lost were roles, illusions, and patterns you had outgrown. What you lost were versions of you that belonged to a life you no longer fit inside. And suddenly, everything that fell apart feels less like chaos and more like orchestration. The collapse did not break you. It revealed you, because the person you are now, the one standing in the aftermath, the one breathing through the clarity, the one finally aligned with truth. That person could never have existed without everything that fell away. Your life did not fall apart. It recalibrated. It rearranged itself to make room for the self you are becoming. It stripped away everything that dimmed your spirit, so your soul could finally rise without resistance. And the moment you understand that, you will see your collapse for what it truly was, the beginning of your becoming. So let me ask you, if nothing in your life is the same anymore, is it possible that you are not the same anymore either? And if your life is falling apart right now, this is the message you were meant to hear today. The message your future self has been trying to send you. You are not breaking, you are breaking through. Every piece that is falling away is the part of you your next chapter simply cannot carry. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the most important threshold of it. And now, the question that will define everything that comes next is this. Can you stay long enough in the collapse to meet the person you are becoming? Because your new life is not built through effort or control. It arrives the moment you stop gripping the old world and allow the new one to reveal itself in its own timing. The fall is not your failure. The fall is your passage. The fall is the sacred doorway you were always meant to walk through. Your soul knows exactly what it is doing, even in the moments your mind cannot make sense of anything at all. And when the dust settles, when the pieces rearrange themselves around the truth of who you really are, you will look back and realize something extraordinary. Your breakthrough was never far away. It was underneath everything that had to collapse, so you could finally rise without carrying what once dimmed your light. You are closer than you think, closer than you feel, closer than you have ever been. And one day soon, you will wake up and recognize that the life that seemed to vanish was preparing the path for the life your soul came here to experience. Because this is not your collapse. This is your rise. A rise written in your destiny long before you arrived.